What's up, everybody, and welcome to Veve Vibes. And in this video, I'm just going to briefly go over some of the announcement that Veve has, drops that I'm going for personally, and things that I'm going to be doing while I'm over at New York Comic Con for the most part. So not really a script here. I do have a couple tabs kind of lined up here just to show you guys kind of maybe some price predictions, drops that I'm going for personally, which ones am I skipping, things like that. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. So first thing is, obviously, Veve just has a lot of announcements. I just kind of started at the very bottom of the whole New York Comic Con announcements, and you could just see there's just tons of New York Comic Con stuff, obviously with the artist and stuff like that, with the Addiction comic, and then obviously with Tokidoki and with Ron English, and there's more Spider-Man stuff with like a Veve exclusive, basically like partnership with Veve and Marvel, which is awesome, and just tons and tons of stuff going on. So I'm going to go through it here very quickly, at least what I'm going to be doing. So personally, I will be going for the Addiction drop. I think this is going to be one of the instances where obviously the common used to outprice the uncommon for a lot of things, but I think this is very unique in the sense of that this is a obviously a Veve partnered comic for the most part, and it's very unique. I do think the uncommon actually might outperform the rare just for the sheer fact that it has the Veve logo, and I do think there's a very small chance that the ultra rare will actually outprice the secret rare. But then again, when we look at the mints, it's pretty much a lot of the mints between like common, uncommon, and rare, like they're not that far apart. Like a lot of the mint numbers seem to be pretty clustered together. I know typically with the Marvel comics, obviously with 10,000 mints, it would be like 6,000 commons, 2,000 uncommons, and then it kind of goes further and further down from there, usually ending at 250 ultra rares. But because the ultra rares and the secret rares, sorry, the secret rares are 250, that right now the ultra rares and secret rares are a bit on the higher end, so it's the spread of the editions are kind of a bit more evenly distributed amongst the rarities. So overall, it would not surprise me if the ultra rare, just because it has the classic Veve blue color, has the Veve logo on it, it's a Veve exclusive comic, all that stuff, it would not surprise me if it actually does outperform the secret rare, just barely, if anything. It might get close, it might not outperform it, but it would not surprise me at all if it does. So I will be going for this comic. Honestly, on this one, I might just click buy just as much as I can. I know the mint numbers on this are a little bit lower with 6,850 editions, but this might be one of those comics where people are just going to click buy and just on the rebound just click buy. You know, I'm going to be one of those people for this drop personally, because I do like these Veve exclusive covers. For the posters, I do think this poster is actually do pretty well. If we look at the Avengers 1 Comic-Con poster over in San Diego, that one had about 1,200 mints. I think it had 1,160 mints or 20 mints, something like that. So I do think this one will do pretty well. I do think the biggest issue with this poster is that it's so early in Comic-Con that I do think people are going to buy into it. They're going to sell it for pretty low, and then people are probably just going to get gem greedy and just sell it for profit in preparation for drops that are going to happen a little bit later. I've kind of noticed typically, unless it's like a really big grail, like drops that happen early, you know, typically in things like New York Comic Con or like 12 Days of Veve or whatever, where there's just like a huge series of drops happening in a short period of time. Usually the early drops just kind of just get absolutely dunked. So I really like this comic, and I do think the 600 editions are going to do well. I do think it's going to initially be, you know, above box price, then go below, then above. But I do think in the long term, I think this one will do relatively well. I do like the cover and the art on this quite a bit. This is a drop I'm probably going to skip. I will probably get this maybe the secondary. I might get this towards either the tail end of New York Comic Con, or I might literally wait till the end of the year to pick this one up. I think there might be a good chance that this one just straight up won't sell out. This will likely go below retail. Obviously, Kingpin is a very awesome street level villain for both Spider-Man and Daredevil, but for the most part, I think when they're just kind of paired up against the two juggernauts that are basically you know, Magneto and Xavier, I think it's kind of hard for him to kind of compare to that. I do know Kingpin is a big character, but I think these will actually do pretty well. When it comes to Professor Xavier, I do think these are going to be kind of tough to analyze. So at first, when I was trying to analyze or kind of come up with certain comparables, I thought of like Poe, you know, from Kung Fu Panda, because he had 40 mints, not 40 mints, but 40 gem box price as well, but he hasn't really sold out yet, so that's not a good comparable. Plus he has like higher mints. I was thinking of like Red Hulk that has 2,222 editions, so it's pretty similar to these guys, but because he was basically caught up in the aspect of that there's an airdrop involved, obviously his price were hyper inflated right before the drop. And on top of that, I thought about some other ones. I thought about like Darkseid. That one has similar mints, but like a higher box price at 60 gems. I think the one that might be most consistent might be Green Lantern. That one has about 2,400 mints and 60 gems. That one is currently, last I saw, was about 24 not 24, but 28 gems. So I do think these will probably land slightly below retail, probably Professor Xavier, but I do think in the long term these will do relatively well. I might still mint these just for the heck of it, just for a low mint number, just because I love these characters. I do feel like at least Professor Xavier might go slightly below mint for a brief period of time, but it might pump up till, you know, 45 or 50 potentially. We'll just see. But I don't think, I know my last price prediction video, I didn't really do any comparables. I didn't do any research. I was like, yeah, this will go for 70 and this one will go for higher. That's not likely the case here, especially since there's so many drops happening in such a short period of time. There's going to be a lot of liquidity just kind of moving around. I will say, if we didn't have all the other like independent artists and all these other drops with like less liquidity, or not less liquidity, but less supply, I do think Magneto and Professor Xavier would do a little bit better, but just because there's so much stuff happening, I think they'll do okay. I still think, despite Magneto having the highest rarities at 2,888, so that's higher than Kingpin and Professor Xavier, I still think he will actually do the best. So I think he will still perform about maybe 5, potentially 10 gems better than Professor Xavier, but we're gonna have to really see how that pans out. But for me personally, I will be playing the drop on both of these, maybe even chasing these in the secondary market if people do disrespect these and legitimately put this for like 25 gems or something like that. But I'm not sure if that's gonna happen for the most part. And as for the X-Men, I did have a couple charts I wanted to show you guys here, because I really think I did put up actually a Twitter post. Let me actually pull it up here on my other screen really quick. I did put up a Twitter post of what people thought the prices of the X-Men were going to be on drop, at least the commons, obviously. I did not want to kind of go through all the rarities here, but a lot of people think, whoops, not there. A lot of people do think that the commons are going to go between 20 to 30 gems, which is basically box price. And I kind of wish there was more options here, because I think the distribution isn't, you know, 20 to 30 gems is a pretty wide range when it comes to comics, even 30 to 40. But it seems like on average, most of the people think it's going to be 20 to 30, followed by 30 to 40 and things like that. So I think it's going to really depend on the market, because if we look at the comics, so let's go ahead. It's actually kind of cool. And my NFT tracker already has some of the drops on here, obviously not all of them. Including the comics. I don't see the comics on here just yet, but if we look at the common comics and we look at floor price, commons, obviously this is pretty much the best comparables when it comes to X-Men 1 for the most part. So we have Iron Man, we have Thor, as well as Incredible Hulk. Actually, Hulk actually went down a little bit right now, being slightly surpassed by Marvel Comics. So that's actually pretty interesting. These three comics were always pretty much in tandem at all times, and Incredible Hulk actually kind of got broken up here just by half a gem, even less than that, than Marvel Comics #1. But I think what's going to happen, one of two things is going to happen to X-Men #1. Either it's going to get the Hulk effect, where it starts off at a very high price, and Hulk is actually one of the most recent, it's actually the most recent kind of grail comics that we've had recently, when it's like Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and probably we can even throw in giant size X-Men, but that one has 7,500 mint, so that one's kind of doing its own thing. Hulk started off very hot at like 50 gems, 55 gems plus. The first three days there was a lot of kind of first 3 or 4 days there was a lot of back and forth trying to keep it at above 50 or just in the high 40s, and it actually maintained in the mid 40s, mid to high 40s for about a month and a half. So it's actually pretty respectable price range right there. But when we look at something like Journey into Mystery, so with Thor, this one actually initially started off pretty hot as well. So way back in January, this was like the first of the kind of series grail drops that I'm dropping here. So people are super excited. I remember I initially started off at like 70 gems. It finally cooled off after a day or two, but it actually did maintain that above 50 gem price for the better part of like 2.5 months. So it did really, really well there. But I think what might likely happen with this X-Men comic, just because there's so many other things happening, you know, the Iron Man, Hulk, and Journey and Mystery were all just kind of standalone drops. People were super excited. That was kind of like the drop of the month. So people just had a ton of liquidity, hopefully, or at least saved up some money to kind of chase after these comics. But I think there's legitimately like 11 or 12 other drops all happening around X-Men 1 that people might want to chase or kind of grab something else instead. I think what's most likely going to happen is kind of what happened to Iron Man, which is it started out pretty cold. When Iron Man first dropped, it was pretty much in the low 30s, sometimes even the high 20s. Then over the course of a few months, it started finally warming up. And actually, July was the month when Hulk dropped, mid-July. early to mid July is actually when the Hulk dropped, and that's kind of when things started heating up again, where people were like, okay, actually we're starting to get this series of Grail comics. I should probably double back and grab some things like Iron Man or Thor that were dropped quite some time ago. So I do think X-Men is probably going to start similar to this, where it's going to start off relatively cold, 30 gems. I do agree, some people might think it go to 20. I think 20 to 30 gems might be a little low. In that range. It wouldn't surprise me it started off in the high 20s or low 30s, but again, over the course of a few months, I do think that price will go up pretty significantly, especially after a month when that not the liquidity, but the supply gets delisted, and now the floors start looking really, really thin, and then people start buying up the floors. That I could definitely see that happening. So I do think X-Men #1 is going to be in this realm. It's always going to be hanging out with basically these three comics: Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk, in my personal opinion. Of course, I might be a little bit biased, and if you look at things like market cap, popularity, highest selling comic books of all time, just off of sheer popularity, like technically, in my opinion, I think X-Men should be a little bit higher than these, but then again, it's up to the market and not up to me and my personal bias at the end of the day. So a couple more drops that we're going to talk about here. If you guys remember this guy was actually like on the Veve login screen for a long time, back in like 2021, until Veve kind of redesigned the login screen. They still had this guy, but it looked a little bit different. They kind of like put him like in the phone. Like he was on the app, obviously, but on the login screen, it kind of looked like he was in the phone. It was part of like a collectible. Long story short, this guy's been like on the Veve app for like over 2 years. And me and a handful of other people, I'm like, when are we getting this drop? Like I've seen it on the app, and there's still even a few other drops too. There's like a donut looking Tokidoki, like ballerina looking thing. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it has like a donut ears and like a donut like tutu or something like that. And like we still don't have those drops. So obviously Veve had these partnerships a long time ago. I don't know what's taking them so long to drop this, but now we're finally getting this guy on the drop. So if you guys want to see a quick little kind of side by side here, I don't know if you guys remember this guy, but yeah, finally we're getting him on the drop. Colors look a little bit different. The kind of like spine part on top of his head looks a little bit lighter color, and the shoes are purple instead of pink that we saw here. Yeah, this one's probably more of like a pinkish purple, but yeah, the colors are just slightly different, I would say. Maybe it's just my monitor or whatever, but I will be going for this on the drop. It's only 13 gems. I have no clue what the box price, not the box price, but like what my price predictions are for these. These look pretty cute, but they look a little bit goofy as well. Me personally, I'm just gonna go for the drop. Just playing 13 gems, just hope I get something high and just flip it, quite frankly. But I will be going after this in the secondary market, and I've been meaning to do this for a while, where actually I'll make a video just kind of talking about how I think the drops that are on the login screens, like Spider-Man, common Spider-Man, this guy, there's a couple other NFTs or a couple other digital collectibles that are actually like on the login screen or other part of like Veve marketing material that I do think are going to be good to kind of pick up at some point. And I do think this is one of them, especially since there's only 2,650. In some case, I do think this actually might outperform the uncommon or maybe even the rare. Even though the scarcity is there, I do think a lot of the Veve OGs know, like, they've been staring at this thing for the better part of 2 years. And at least me personally, I would want to pick one up. And last but not least, the Ron English. I'm definitely going to be playing this comic drop. I mean, it's 6 gems. I should say actually 7 gems. The liquidity, I don't know why I keep saying liquidity. The supply is super, super scarce, less than 3,000 editions. If you actually end up landing this 666 ultra rare comic, if you get lucky to land this one with the alien with the nips hanging out, I'm sure you'll probably fetch a nice little premium in there. There's a lot of people that love Ron English, kind of his funny and kind of goofy looking art. Super, super colorful. I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to do, but I feel like this is going to be profitable, definitely, just because of the sheer kind of like lack of supply on this. And I do actually think in general the independent artist stuff is going to do pretty well, including the golden Tokidoki dinosaur thing that we saw before. I'm sure there's a couple other drops I've missed as well, but that's kind of my plan too. And actually there's one thing I did miss. I'm sure it's going to be on the Veve thing right here. Basically, any of the physical comics, so the Addiction, like physical comics that are going to be sold there, I'm definitely going to be buying at least a few copies of those for me personally, and maybe some other friends that are also on Veve. And then, of course, with these ones, if you guys didn't know, these are, sorry for the flashbang there, that these are being sold at the booth exclusively just for New York Comic Con. It's first come, first serve. Based on what I can see here, if you look at the very bottom, there's like 2 variants. There's basically the normal variant where it says, Spider-Man Returns. And then there's also the Virgin variant, which basically just removes any text off the front. And it's kind of more of like a poster or just kind of like a really, really cool art piece, but still has like the Veve logo and everything like that on the back. So if you want the normal one, you got to pay 20 gems. But if you do want the Virgin variant, you'll get the physical, you'll get the like normal physical variant, this one, in addition to this. So basically you have to pay an extra $10 for the virgin variant. So if you want to kind of look at it that way, $30 for this, $20 for this. If you pay it for $50, you get a pack. And it does say here there's a purchase limit of 20 comics per transaction at the Veve booth, 20 single variants, or 10 10 and 10 virgin kind of pack bundles or whatever it is. So honestly, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. Part of me wants to go for a handful of these. I know there's a couple people that have kind of reached out to see if I'll buy them one. I can't promise anything. I no offense, I don't want anybody like bombarding me with a bunch of requests to kind of buy these, because I feel like it can kind of get out of hand. I'm going to try the best I can for myself, and then the couple of friends are buying these for, but I'm not sure if I'm going to buy all 10 or maybe just buy 5, or kind of we'll just see there. But then again, I say these types of things until I physically get there, then who knows, I might FOMO in and just buy as many as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of exciting stuff happening for New York Comic Con. I'm excited to meet you guys there. I might do a live stream or maybe like a market breakdown or something like that, like before I go sometime Wednesday evening, because I'm basically flying out Wednesday late at night, taking a red eye, sleeping overnight, and then landing at 6:30 a.m. in New York. And then I think what I might do is I might go straight to the convention, literally to pick this comic up. I think just because of the limited supply and the fact that you can buy 20 of them, which is quite a bit. I thought they would limit it to like 5 per person. You know, maybe you can get 5 of this and 5 of this, and that's kind of it. But it sounds like you can buy much, much more. So maybe I might go straight to the convention with all my bags and stuff like that just to buy this. And then afterward, I'll probably kind of take a rest at my hotel and all that stuff, because this is the limited physical supply and I want to make use of it and grab it basically as soon as I can. But yeah, that's it. I'm curious. Let me know down below if you guys are going to New York Comic Con, if you guys are hanging out. I'll try my best to do some live streams. I know there's going to be a ton of content creators there, so there's probably going to be a live stream on pretty much at all times, I would imagine, or at least most of the time while Comic Con is there. And what I might do is do a couple live streams, just kind of video myself walking around talking to people, introducing them to Veve, and then also talking to other people in the Veve fam as well. So yeah, that's it. Let me know what kind of drops you guys are going for. What are you guys most excited about for New York Comic Con, or if you're going there yourself. So hope you guys take care. Please double and triple check all of your listings so you don't screw yourself over, and I'll catch you guys next time.